俺はルフィ、海賊王になる男だ。
It's a great day here at Keg Filet's YouTube channel. I am the Keg Filet, and today I have actually a video about Blackbeard, BY Luffy, this matchup. Really, everyone's kind of talking about this one matchup that happened this weekend. It's really the only one to really highlight of the whole tournament. There were a couple interesting things that happened at the tournament, which I can maybe go over in another video, but I want to preface this video. This is not like a hate video toward all these mistakes this person made. So BY Luffy won. Honestly, I thought about it as someone who plays quite a bit of Blackbeard, and I have zero experience into BY Luffy. Most people, they actually choose to focus all of their time and effort into learning their hard matchups. If you're playing Blue Luffy and you have a really good winning matchup into Blackbeard, why would you really put a lot of effort into learning how to beat? You would rather put your time and effort into learning the matchups that are hard for you, like Shanks, the Mirror, Purple Luffy, whatever that might be. And maybe that's what happened this weekend. So if you guys didn't know, we had two players, Joe and Michael, that played in top 16. This is probably the biggest deciding match of the top 32 because the person who won this ended up going on facing 3 Rob Luccis, and I think BY Luffy and Blackbeard have a pretty big advantage over Lucci, probably BY more. And I wanted to go over every single little detail on this best of 3. I do want to suggest go watch it back for yourself on the Bondi, but I'll be showing clips and little notes and things for you guys to take down, both as a BY player and a Blackbeard player, so you guys know what to do if you're playing BY or if you're playing Blackbeard in this matchup, because I think you're going to be seeing a whole lot more of both. And I wanted to go over every single little detail on this best of 3. I do want to suggest go watch it back for yourself on the Bondi, but I'll be showing clips and little notes and things for you guys to take down, both as a BY player and a Blackbeard player, so you guys know what to do if you're playing BY or if you're playing Blackbeard in this matchup, because I think you're going to be seeing a whole lot more of both. Watching the game back from a different angle where you know all the information, you can say that a lot of mistakes were made. They should have done this, and that. And that's really what this video is so when you go to your games, you have an idea on how to just make less mistakes for the matchup in general, and also how to maximize if your opponent makes those mistakes. And again, this is not some sort of hate video or sad video on Blackbeard or BY Luffy. Honestly, BY Luffy has to play perfect, and Blackbeard has to make a lot of mistakes. And realistically, guys, I went to Nats. I went 4 wins, 5 losses on Blue Doflamingo. I didn't take Blackbeard because I was too scared of the Blue Doflamingo matchup. And it didn't work out for me. And a lot of big props for Joe to getting the top 16 already with Blackbeard. And I just want to jump into the matchup right now and then kind of go over every specific thing. Before we get into any of these games, I wanted to jump into what you want to do if you're BY Luffy or Blackbeard, now that I've watched the games over and have a better idea on how to do it. So number one is, if you're playing Black Yellow Luffy, your on plays are not going to work most of the time, usually from 7 Dawn or 8 Dawn onward. So things like Black Sabo aren't going to work, but early game things like Flampe and such are going to be pretty well used, and you kind of want to take your life from there. So generally, I would say if you're playing BY Luffy, see Flampes early, see Fist Luffys. Every Fist Luffy you see, your opponent has to have an answer for it. If they don't, then that card's going to get a whole lot of value, get a whole lot of damage. You want to do as much damage as possible while also building up, number 1, blockers, and 2, setting up a very annoying stall game tactic where you have multiple blockers and just putting cards into your life. That's probably the most important thing. It actually doesn't really matter if your leader is a 7k or 9k most of the time. It's just how long can you stall, how many cards can you draw, and how many times can you put cards into your life. This leader, guys, Black Yellow Luffy, is I always called a fake leader. It just does stuff that's broken in general. And in that broken sense, if you're going to have a chance, you just become extremely annoying coming up to 2 life, 1 life, multiple blockers, especially with how many strange blockers like Shirahoshi, Nami, Sabo, and even the Ivankov really is. So these cards are going to be really, really good. And kind of plan on from 7 down onwards, you're probably not going to be able to play any on-play characters. As well as that, I don't think it's a good idea to damage deny if you're playing Black Yellow Luffy into Blackbeard. Michael did this the very first game a little bit, and he actually just might have won if he didn't damage deny for the first few attacks, but that's kind of crazy because the first game was actually kind of close considering, you know, all the little mistakes that were made. Next is Blackbeard. Blackbeard facing Black Yellow Luffy. You're shutting down all of their on plays. So there's Sabos later in the game. Their Flampe's. Their Shirahoshis. Whatever on play. The main thing is going to be Gecko Moria. Kind of ruining that part of it. And you're going to be playing Jesus Burgess. That card cannot be removed. And your opponent is forced to play Rygo if you play down a 10 drop. Just always expect at least the first one to get Rygo'd in general. So what's our major game plan? A couple things. I think you should not attack Black Yellow Luffy for the first few turns. You kind of want to keep them at a high life, let them take their own life with Flampe, with 5-cost Luffy. These kind of cards, it's just going to just work out better for you. You're not trying to rush them down. If you put them down to 1 or 0 life and they have a blocker, it doesn't mean anything unless you have multiple characters that can attack. And you're not like a wide Blue Dofi kind of strategy. You need to stall, get a Jesus Burgess out there, and really you're actually trying to slow the game down really enticely. So that's kind of like your main standpoint. So don't attack for the first few turns, in my opinion. As well as that, playing cards like Doc Q can actually do quite a bit, so you can get free searches off in sort of like the middle game, potentially. And I also think cards like Vasco Shot, Vivi, these cards aren't that great because they're just going to get Rocket Luffy'd anyway. It's better to have the card in your hand. A lot more cards in hand just means you can use leader skill more in the later game. If you can just get away with that, that's going to be your biggest thing. Again, you're going to be using searches, finding Jesus Burgesses. If you can find a reduction, that's great. Doc Q might be okay, but the main thing is you want to just get those finger pistols out there. You want to get Jesus Burgesses out there, and hopefully chain 2, 3, 4, 10 drops in a row. And kind of you're playing the vanilla game, not attacking your opponent, and then pushing in when the time is right and forcing your opponent to kind of not have it. And again, I actually thought about this one for quite a bit. Normally, you just stop your opponent from doing on plays from 8 dawn onward. However, if your opponent goes to 7 dawn and they have only 2 life, it actually is very warranted to remove the on plays because they can just do the play a 2-drop character and then take their life, put a big Luffy, and then yada yada yada, take their life and go back up 2 life with that Luffy. Honestly, it's extremely annoying, and that's probably like the best case scenario for them. And then they may even get like a Sabo out there. So maybe from 7 down onward, if your opponent's playing Black Yellow, you want to get the use out of Teach's no on play effects from there on. If they're at 2 or less life, they have 3 or more life, then just don't do on plays, in my opinion. But I actually could be wrong on that. It just seems from a different perspective that could be the angle we're going for. All right, you guys can find this video in the description. We're just gonna go kind of over the video and also add notes as we go along. Michael was able to go first and see a Flampe, drawing 2 extra cards, going to 6 cards in hand. Blackbeard didn't do much turn 2. Pretty good, but Michael should actually attack here. But the blocker is super, super good in this situation to help stall the game later. So mistake number 1 is actually attacking. Putting Black Yellow down low in life does not really help you at all unless you have multiple characters or at least 1 more to attack later. Should not attack there. Should just play Burgess, do full lead, pass. So Sabo into doing a couple things. Again, not attacking the Blackbeard. I'm assuming that's kind of to slow down the no-on plays, actually starving out Blackbeard, which I think is not the right play. However, it's the one being used here. So here attacking, he's kind of already committed to attacking and has 2 Burgess. I can see that working if maybe Michael had 1 less blocker, but I think just keeping him at 2 life may have been okay as well. Not sure if that really was a mistake. Just the mistake was already kind of attacking earlier. So really good play on 7 Dawn when you have no on plays is just the straight up play the big Luffy and get a couple life. You're just trying to really off-put your opponent here. I wouldn't even call out the Rocket Luffy if you don't have to. It actually can be okay in some situations if your opponent already had, let's say, a card that they can actually KO, like a little blocker. But I think this is extremely annoying. Going back up to 2 life is extremely good. Now, I guess I wouldn't call this a mistake. Maybe just a thought process now that we're playing the game. He grabbed a Lafitte searcher. Lafitte's just going to get checked by any like little character here, right? And it's a waste of 2 Dawn most of the time. I think maybe a black hole just to remove the Ivankov would have been okay, actually, in this situation. But again, I'm not sure if that was already a mistake. The biggest mistake is attacking, getting down to low life to begin with. And then he is not able to clear the big Luffy right when he's played, which actually I wouldn't say is a mistake, just it's not great. Now, I will say swinging now is just fine because the cards are face up. When the cards are face up, they lose that card. It's actually pretty crappy, but when the card's face down, I don't think you attack until you're ready. Also, small comments, the commentators, they're like here all the way to like really far away from a screen. They can't tell if it's a 9K or a 10K swing. It's an 8K swing, right? No harsh things to them. It's just an 8K swing because they're so far from the screen. And here, actually, I'm thinking it may have been better not to swing at that character. It may have actually just been the same thing. That's kind of actually what won Joe this first game, spoilers, right? That Michael did not have enough 5 costs in general, but that's kind of more Black Yellow Luffy not having the right cards in hand. Also, Joe did forget to use Full of Lead. Not sure if that was intentional or not. They already have all the cards they needed in hand, but did not use Full of Lead. So, because the Burgess is, rested, it's going to be attacked and killed by the Luffy instead of hitting their face. Again, I guess now watching back, that would be somewhat of a mistake that we could point out, but that's just looking back at the situation. So, and then rough thing is that Michael only has 1 5-drop in hand and life combined, so can only go up to 1 life during this whole entire thing, and it only has 1 blocker. If they had another Burgess here, that could have been really, really good. However, Michael would have had that other Rocket Luffy to kind of actually be back at 1 life. So maybe. And it's smart swinging at the leader, not the blocker. Now, things you got to expect as the Blackbeard player is to get Rygoed on your first 10 drop at the very least, and then some sort of combo to combo out. Now, small mistake here. Michael didn't use leader skill to put that 1 Sabo that went into trash back in there, but it's pretty rough here, in my opinion, just so that can't block. Immediately so swings 9. And 9, and then gets the game. I'd want to say it was somewhat of a really, really bad hand for Michael there in order to even come back in that situation. So it's kind of a half a scoop, but if they just need like 1 more 5-drop, they actually maybe would have been able to live through that and then win the game. But let's go on to game 2. So this time, Michael's able to go second and then just plays Flampe into 1-drop, finding a yellow Sabo. And with this, it's pretty much like a frustrating thing right now to watch someone actually play out number one swing, so it puts him down to 2 life. But also the little blocker. I realize now after the fact, this little blocker is not good against Black Yellow Luffy. Black Yellow Luffy's only removal is Rocket Luffy, and that Rocket Luffy does not an on play. It's actually so good for Rocket Luffy, and it basically incentivizes them to use it because they just want to draw cards anyway. Michael sees a really good starting hand, gets attacked once, double Flampe, plays out a blocker. All the right things going on, and the best thing that changed from game 1 to game 2, now Michael is attacking Joe, so he's now on like an actual clock compared to last time where he wasn't attacked at all. Next mistake that was made here is that they made it so that they can't use on plays on their 6th on turn again. I'm not sure if that's actually very good or not. With that, I actually just think you just don't use the no on plays, especially discarding the finger pistol is really rough because you need to be able to remove any blocker, the 5-drop Luffy in particular, right, in order to kind of neg the value of the big Luffy over time, right? So that's 2 mistakes here is number 1, putting the 0, number 2, actually using leader ability and discarding a finger pistol, which is, you know, a little strange, especially if you want to build your trash for Jesus Burgess. It also helps build your trash.
Oh yeah,
that must have been what it was. He had no more names in trash. Yeah, so that's him discarding, I believe. No, because he can add from hand too. It's Ivankov. Okay, whatever.
Sure.
That's what happened last game.
We got there. So we got the Fist Luffy and the Sabo in trash.
There you see the Searcher event being played from the security, getting the black. Yeah, like they go everywhere.
You got me doing it now. Yeah.
I'm very interested to see how this game plays out because this is such a stark contrast from how Cross was playing in.
Now, good thing here that actually happened is Cross is sequencing really, really well, especially with, you know, playing out the big Luffy's after he swung with his leader, because he's actually afraid of finger pistol, like probably most people would.
Try to force this into a game 3.
Yeah.
And I'm just interested to see how this works out.
Yeah. I mean, he's already finally resolved the effect of a baby here. Yeah, I think
so. Joe uses his first finger pistol here. I think you could maybe have used the Searcher first, right? That's I wouldn't call that a real mistake, but use the first finger pistol on that.
I guess with the Dawn up, he could still be aggressive if he wanted to be, but might be too many resources from him.
Feet.
This is scary. Like we are close to just a huge swing in.
I know. That's what I was kind of wondering. Is are we just going to see a bunch of Dawn loaded up? A little bit too late for that this turn, but the threat is there.
And realistically, you actually should probably swing first with Joe and then use the finger pistol after you swung, just to kind of threaten am I gonna swing, you know, 5 with leader? If you take this one, I'm just gonna hit you hard with the next one.
With all these cards in hand, but I also have 3 blockers that can't be KO'd. Good luck.
Yep, and it goes a little deeper than that. You have the protection versus KO, but you also
just getting out a lot of value first. It doesn't matter at the end of the time, but it definitely shows a little bit too much information. Then uses leader skill, discards a 10-drop. I do see there's other cards in their hand. I think the 10-drop would have been really good to keep. Obviously, things like playing the Vasco shot isn't really doing anything. If they kept the Vasco shot earlier, then they could just use that for leader skill and may have had like a better time. As well as that now this Burgess is going to be kind of a prime target. And also they didn't swing with their Blackbeard leader this turn just to get out like a 1k counter. So again, it's as you guys can see, you know, I have like this full list of little mistakes. This is kind of the things that can happen, a full little bit of mistakes in order to lose. And It's no real hate toward Joe. It's just I'm sure a lot of people in the same situation may make the exact same mistake. Top of the stage, probably not a lot of practice into BY because it's not your hard matchup. You probably mostly practice against your hard matchups in generally.
We're going to see the Luffy swing, and that's a life taken by Joe just to put another card in hand.
Yeah, Chris, I think you're totally right. I think Michael's game plan is, you know what, I'm just going to try to attack you and hope that your hand is low enough without enough counter to stop me, because you can just kind of win in one piece like that. You're like, well, I got to win right now. My opponent will eventually beat me, so this is my opening. I got to either make it for myself or just go for it. Like, next turn, Michael will have at least 1 to 2 attackers. Joe has 1 blocker. If he gets, like, 1 more sneaky attack in this turn, that could be crazy.
Yeah, looks like the Luffy in the Sabo in life. Oh, Luffy over in the trash, actually. Okay.
Yeah, because he used the Fist Luffy that he just played to cycle and draw a card.
Right on. Yep.
And make himself 8K.
Using the
so this is where that second finger pistol would have been really, really good to have to begin with on that earlier turn when he discarded it for leader skill.
Not even close. Yeah.
It's kind of like, again, that little small -1. With that, they're going to be looking around for some other cards, maybe even just building up their trash or 2Ks. Removing either the Ivankov blocker or the 5-drop Luffy should be your priority, as long as sticking another Burgess. You do have to worry about surviving for at least 1 more turn, which you do have the Vasco shot. But hopefully, in the next circumstance, you just immediately Vasco shot block anything.
12Ks all day.
All right, getting that discard off.
Yes, with the leader ability. Do we go up as Burgess? 12. I think that's 16 exactly. Boom, going up to a 10K Burgess. That is crazy.
It's huge.
It wants to be. Now, what is he going to do with the rest of his Dawn? Is the second one about to come down right now? Just to have it up?
You know, it's better than 1 Burgess. How about?
Oh, no.
Van Auger.
And a Burgess.
There we go.
So
technically is better than
the Van Auger is maybe okay if you have a Doc Q to help KO the little blockers here, but like in reality, it's like they're trying to go wide. Now Luffy's going to be looking to become like a 7 or 9K, potentially, to make it a little bit more annoying. I think you should have discarded the Van Auger and then kept the 4-drop event, remove that Ivankov blocker with the black hole, and then discard the Van Auger with leader skill in order to stop on plays. And then hopefully you're able to defense up on the next turn, and then hopefully just win in like 2 or 3 turns. But like playing out going wide as Blackbeard is never a good option, because you need cards in your hand in order to use leader skill.
I think it's literally black holes and finger pistols and damage. That's Joe's game plan so far this match that I think he's playing for, and it's very clear to see. But obviously he could have another one, or just get another one with all the cycling he has.
You could even see a potential of Von Auger using the event to remove the Luffy, which is a little different, to be honest, but I would say more the other way around. Was just Jesus Burgess is really, really good in this. Now Rocket Luffy gets full effect here, removing the Vasco shot. Again, if that Vasco shot was never played, Joe would have another card in their hand, and we wouldn't be in that kind of situation and to begin with.
Looks like wants to check that out. Look for this card pile. Yeah.
Because we know we have 1 in hand. I believe we have, let's see, we have a 9K leader attack right now. We have an 8K Fist Luffy, and then we have 6 Dawn back, I think. Which means we could go. And
Joe's is actually quite vulnerable here. They need to get a pretty good. They need to get a pretty good teach down here and really try not to lose. Rygo will just maybe even like end the game sometimes.
Like, he's just getting rid of the cards that don't have counter in his hand, because he knows this is how Michael wins the game. It's by connecting with these attacks.
Getting a little bit scary.
Quick look. Can we stop a 9K attack? We can't. Can we stop a 10K attack? Oh, it's
okay. Draw a card. I'll check some things out.
That's at least 1K counter going to the hand. All right, this will be a 10K Ivankov swing. I think this could be it for Joe in game 2.
So Michael puts Joe down to 0 life. They could swing with the Ivankov potentially. Hopefully they didn't have too many 2Ks. But you know what's better than winning? Not losing. And that's kind of what this next play comes to. I'll skip ahead a little bit. Now, after 5 agonizing minutes, Michael ends up playing a 5-cost Sabo, and the main thing is it's more that they can't lose, basically, in this situation. Or it's going to be very hard to. Maybe a Black Hole can actually force a loss, but when you're a 7K leader with Black Yellow Luffy, it's going to become really, really hard. So ends up playing this 10-drop teach, doing some filter. Hopefully they're not able to just Raigo and then swing for the fences, which is probably not going to be the case regardless. Joe's in just a really terrifying spot, even if they get 2 things back to back. It's just, I mean, they probably should have lost the last turn, but it was fine to do the more defensive play, which was just keep blockers up and then be a 7K leader. Is kind of gross.
I fully respect him for taking the time to think it through, run through his numbers, and just really try to make the best play first.
Like, he only cards Joe can force out in play. Michael will have easily 2 attacks if he chooses not to block. It'll all be how many cards Joe can force out of his hand. Because if he can force his life to be taken, he might be able to eat up another pseudo attacker in one of these blockers.
Yeah, true. 10 coming in from the Virtus right now.
Against the 7, I believe, Luffy.
Yep. I believe so.
Yeah, so Michael must have thought about, like, I don't think it matters, so I'm going to choose to go for the block here in case I'm wrong about how many cards he had in hand.
Mm-hmm. See some counter being put down.
That's 4 1Ks. That's a lot of cards.
it is indeed. But
that's an insane amount of cards. I do want to say as well, another little mistake that could have happened is that you can still maybe even play the 10-drop or not play the 10-drop. You could swing first before that to see if you actually want to use the skill to remove one of your opponent's blocker skills in order to win the game.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. The Raigo on the teach will just KO that immediately.
We're going to go 7, then I think we're going to go 8.
But ends up winning just based off of that. They already were down low in hand. It could have just calculated if they have Raigo, do I lose here? Which it seems quite often with that to be the case. So we're gonna go to game 3.
The way Joe decides to go into it, it could be a complete flip-flopper either.
All right, so with that, Joe's going second. Michael's not able to play a flampe on turn 1, which is basically the biggest thing that can happen. Gets a actual searcher and finds the first 10 drop in order to kind of start their game plan going forward.
Right, so here we go. Game number 3 between Joe Delatorre and Michael.
And one thing, I guess, guys, I just want to say we're looking for, if you're playing Blackbeard, don't attack Black Yellow Luffy. Black Yellow Luffy had no turn play on turn, 3 on turn. They could have swung 8 at that. Doesn't really quite matter. But just kills the searcher so they can't just get infinite value off that. Good. Joe finds out his full of lead, which helps him find, hopefully, something pretty good here. Needs to start building his trash.
And kind of like Chris was saying, look how different these game 2 versus game 3 are. Last time when Michael was at his 5-down turn, he was at 0 life. Now he's going to be probably at around 3 to 4.
You don't need a swing. Plays the searcher, uses the searcher first, which honestly, that's right thing to do. Just use the searcher first, so in case you need to cycle that card out.
Will most likely attack into it on his turn, but if it stays in play ever, it can just generate so much advantage in this deck that if it gets it, can really utilize it using that teach ability to discard and turn off on play effect.
Grabs a Doc Q, which I can see being fine. There was 2 black holes in there. Black hole removing the Ivankovs is like, if I was playing this into BY now, I would be hoping to save them for Ivankovs. And it grabs 2 Doc Qs, which I kind of wish they grabbed the black hole and the Doc Q. And they're not going to use leader skill, of course.
I have something I don't, or that I do have something I don't, you know. And it becomes the mind game.
Now, Michael ends up going to 5 Dawn here, and I assume just swings and kills the Searcher and plays a 5-drop Big Luffy in order to kind of get some value off of that.
Yeah, that's
mostly taking the life, which is a little broken, right?
You can't allow that to stay on the board for too long. Oh, okay, there's a Gecko.
Good card in the trash, too.
True Champ Steve says Gecko.
Gets a Jesus Burgers off the Searcher, which is good. Unfortunately, I kind of wish they had some sort of reduction with the Doc Q, potentially. That could have been actually really good, like a Laboon. They obviously can't search out Laboon. But again, they're attacking. They should not be attacking. You know, I could see maybe I can see actually maybe attacking now.
I think Joe is
That you already attacked him down low, but
he just knows he has so much
does the
advantage
finger
in the late
pistol,
game.
which is
I think
great.
the finger
But
pistol
if when you're
is
attacking your opponent like that, it doesn't really help out a lot. It looks like they're also probably going to use leader
he's
skill.
always swinging with the leader, just not like in terms of like his
They
goal is
they
to
do
beat
use
the
leader
player
skill,
as soon as
stopping
possible.
their 7 Dawn turn crazy stuff, which again I could see it. I could see it, but they're already at 1 life, so it's kind of hard to really say if it's that very good. You could probably get away with not using leader skill here. So I'm gonna say that's probably here or there.
7 down. There's really not much value you can get out of that.
You can see the pressure, right? I mean, these players, and I mean, this is what it is. This is what it takes to be a top player in any card game. You know, you gotta play the game. You gotta deal with the pressures of being on stage sometimes. Gonna go ahead and play the.
And then Michael's playing really smart around finger guns.
And then I think we're gonna maybe go for the leader ability here. Discard the last name we want from our hand to get 2 life back. Could be cool.
Once again, shout out to the person running the life counter behind the scenes for having to do that during a Black Luffy game. It's not easy. It's not an easy job.
Starts at 4, goes to 0, goes back to 1, goes to 2, goes to 0. Oh yeah, over and over again. So we see Rocket Luffy going away. Gonna get those 2 boys back into the.
Get trash too, and I think that's a good thing to keep what's there, knowing what's possible to come out of the hand, knowing how many cards are in trash, of course, for the purpose of the Burgess power.
I think it was 9 right
now. It does make sense to swing when they have face-up life because you want to get the value out of all that.
Search and especially what they drop, it is very easy to keep a general track of their 4 or 5 card hand. Even with their combo power, you see enough 2Ks in there. You know what they've searched. There's only about 2 to 3 blinks in their hand.
They use the searcher. I don't know what they're looking for because
like Michael should be checking the graveyard as much as possible to make sure he keeps track. It's
they have other cards like another Jesus. Finger pistol is decent here, but I kind of wouldn't have hated just 2 Jesuses here instead of that, and maybe pistol the next turn, even though you are going to 10 Dawn. But you just go to pistol the next turn, and just make it more frustrating for your opponent. I believe they did use the no-on plays for that turn.
It can sometimes feel so hard to play against Teach in these more grindy matchups like BY Luffy because you're like, I don't want to give you cards, but if your life is not going down, I have no idea how I put you on a clock in the late game.
Man, that Burgess is already a 9K. That is
kind of scary.
Yeah, no kidding.
16 cards in trash. Wow.
All right. Well, we swapped the little Luffy out for the big Luffy.
That's a 3rd 5-drop Luffy from Michael there. That's good to see, actually, because he really wants that to continuously go down to 0 and be back at 2 life at the beginning of each turn, it looks like.
It does make sense, yeah. And just put another big threat on board, too. I mean, that Luffy can buff itself up to, I believe it's 8, right?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, that's another big swing, too.
Yeah, and in this matchup, too, Michael really wants to see his babies, and so having this extra cycle plus whatever searchers he has is going to be really huge, but he hasn't really searched that much this game, which means I don't know if he has that many combo, pieces in hand. There we see another Moria being discarded, it looks like. We're determining...
I think it has to be this game.
What you put in trash here and the order you put it in is really important for what's going to be fodder, what you're going to be calling out. The 5-cost Luffy is going to be honestly really, really huge. Especially the Fist Luffy. And then finally gets a blocker out so they can breathe really easy.
From Joe to get rid of that blocker, that'd be pretty crazy.
I wonder, I mean,
backbreaking.
You're going to run out eventually, but yeah, what it is? Okay, yep, there's a 10 cost Teach that's going to negate the Luffy on the board. So
now, I don't think you need to play that right away, but it does definitely help out to finally get 1 out.
With 3 life too.
And if they have Raigo, they have Raigo.
Put Joe down to 0 and win the
and they're gonna immediately discard that. I actually, again, I do think you should use your searchers first before you just 10 drop right away, even though you might just 10 drop anyway. Use those searchers in order to have more options in case it actually doesn't make sense to use a searcher that turn.
Card too. That's a large portion of your Dawn committed to that each turn. So when you get multiple 10 cost Teaches out there, plus the Burgess, it's going to be on like.
Also here, you can swing 5 with the leader first. They may just free block it anyway, and you just swing into the leader again. But it's or into the Sabo actually, which might even be better.
Yeah. And both require a lot of dawn.
Yes.
Yeah. Both options.
Set up any combos for him to increase his leader's power, which would be super important for making sure you don't like have your entire hand eaten up by these powerful Burgess swings.
Ouch.
Is that a whiff?
Yep.
Wow.
Whoa. Not the time for that to happen.
There have been a lot of new cards added to the deck that
And
others does not
unfortunately,
touch, which
a whiff, which happens in Black Yellow Luffy, is actually almost a lot.
I feel like most people still run like 2 of at least, but yeah, you do run into those unfortunate situations every once in a while where you just don't find them.
Yeah, we know Michael plays Moria, Kuzan, Ivankov, Shirahoshi, Kingdom Come, all those.
No on plays in order to remove the life. If they have another 5-drop Luffy, that'd be really rich.
I mean, it's part of
They may not have that.
but if you could see Michael's hand at the beginning, you kind of saw he didn't have the most explosive start. There was a fair amount of breaking in the hand, but to break on top of a set, like on top of a 5,
As well as this too, it's a little interesting not just to get a free block here. I'll pause for a second. You swing 5 in the leader. You could either block with the teach. The worst case scenario, they swing like, I don't know, 15 or 16 at your teach as well. And then they have no blocker, then you just swing really big with your leader and your Burgess, getting 100 cards out of their hand, right? But that's, and then you're still at 3 life, so you can't lose realistically. I think that would have been just a smart idea, just to stay up in life.
That Joe's not in a bad position.
Not at all.
It's just like he's about to just continue gumming up the board, negating crucial effects.
There you see the Ivankov blocker coming down. I think Michael is just going shields up here. He was like, I need more turns to see my cards. I don't think he has a way to get this down to 0 life to activate leader ability yet. We see him not saving.
You know, it's also kind of funny as well how in this matchup, Black Yellow Luffy and Blackbeard just kind of stare at each other and play a card. So they play another 10-drop, which is pretty good here. Using a searcher again. I think use a searcher first just in case you actually find something that's actually slightly more useful, but again, I don't really think in this situation there is anything that's more useful than that.
In fact, it's up to 10k now in power, plus 5 from the amount of cards in trash. Just a recount just to make sure for Joe here.
But now it's actually really hard for Joe to punch through because of 2 blockers. Wasn't able to remove 1. Didn't remove enough cards out of the hand. Swings 5, so they don't want to block with the Sabo here.
Leader can actually get in for neutral, and at minimum, you're just getting rid of a card in hand. But
and it's actually kind of funny because I feel like Michael might be kind of like just take the damage in order to not use a blocker to swing everything at the other leader potentially.
Teach is already on the board. The Joe is very, very much so stabilized.
I mean, these are just the situations
and
you gotta overcome.
Joe passes here. He has a 10k Burgess. It's fine to swing Burgess. If they swing at your Burgess, you can block, use counter at the same time. I understand not wanting to put your opponent down to 0 life. If you put it down to 0 life, they can just go back up to 2 life, which ends up being more frustrating. So that's actually, you threaten that because you might use the other card as well because you just want to get the blockers off.
Or like a black hole just like that. That could be like the end for Michael there. But we see him grabbing his own blocker. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Again, doesn't free block any of this, which again is just a mistake. You're just giving up life.
Joe is stabilizing doesn't mean that Joe can get a little reckless with his 10Ks. It's good to have the blocks through because you never just want to lose to let me just dawn up something huge, heavy, and swing in for game.
Or like a Kingdom Come either too. Yeah.
He's still chilling. We do see that in the hand.
I think he drew it for turn.
Yep.
At least he doesn't have to worry about Kingdom Come on the Burgess anyway.
Oh, he drew it off the Rocket Luffy effect. That's what he got off Kingdom Come. Gotcha. There we see the
leader ability.
Yeah.
And looks like the turn.
And pretty luckily here, got the Raigo off of the Rocket Luffy, which is pretty good.
Man, that is an 11K.
And then plays a waiting move, just staring at your opponent. The Blackbeard is not
okay. Your
pushing the agenda.
Other circumstances, this hand would be fine. At least it'd be okay.
10 drop
So,
from Joe, just
playing a 10 drop.
Yep. And this is what you do, right?
I would suggest maybe swinging first to see what they do, and then maybe make it so they can't block, right? And then using the skill, right?
These 5K swings are so annoying to deal with because you don't want to give up a card for this. But what else are you going to do, right? You don't want to lose your blocker. You don't want to take a life.
It's a perfect little it's a perfect check. Careful point, valid haymaker threat per turn. And there's not
the 5K swing.
Two blockers are really
Michael gives a 2K counter.
Michael in the game at this very moment, and they may not last for that long.
11K lead. This might be a take for Michael here, yeah, because he knows that he has only one attack left and he has 2 blockers, which means it's not over now. And honestly, if Michael draws another
all Joe has is 2Ks. That's why he's discarding 2Ks for leader skill.
I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, that's.
And here's the rough thing.
Michael isn't out of it yet. It's not over.
All Michael has to do is just go to 2 life with leader skill, and just tickle your opponent, and eventually win from that by having a wide board.
I mean,
right?
When you play you have to play the teach.
Having 2 life is pretty freaking broken most of the time.
From black hole, I intended
for those, yeah, keeping track at home. We're about to find out. And okay.
One away from
So they swing 5. It looks like they countered out with
That's 3 blockers.
something.
I mean, and then we're gonna get the 2 life back here from Luffy. I don't think Michael's out of it yet. Like we still have to, get him down to 0.
Leader skill, and then
removal spells. I don't know how we do it as Joe.
plays out 1 blocker with 3 Don up just because they can.
Like, Michael's about to have just more swings than,
yeah, right?
than Joe has blockers.
I mean, does Joe have another teach in hand? That's what I'm wondering right now. Is he going to leader ability?
I mean, he's digging.
Yeah.
Now ends up getting the black hole, which is honestly the better card to grab. May even use it to remove a blocker and then maybe go for game. However, they have to get through 1, 2 bodies, hit a 3rd time with 3 blockers. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 attacks. That's not possible with 4 attacks with a 5th removal, right? They're 1 attacker short.
To the 4 attacks that could come through right now and still be able to probably just immediately just turn his board sideways and end him next turn. This is a precarious place for Joe to be in, and it's got to feel good because Michael just knows this is almost inevitability, especially with him not playing immediately windmilling another 10-drop teach. This is just not a good space.
And that's the value in a game like Threat Attacker and attack with it.
What we know.
Really anything in play, like a Doc Q or anything, he would just throw this Don on it and attack with it.
What we know,
force cards out.
And this
big attack. Okay,
this is definitely got to give Michael like a feeling of relief. He is not seeing anything valuable come down quite yet, and he knows he's not seeing another teach. He's gonna have effects live that he wouldn't normally have. He's keeping those blockers up. There's no way he's dying. And once again, he's got...
There really wasn't a way to win the game for Joe at this point. He had to set up something beforehand. But Michael just goes really, really wide here with his board. Joe only has so many cards in hand. Even if every card's a 2K, Joe's going to be able to get out of everything. Or, well, sorry, Michael's going to be able to get through anything Joe maybe has.
Potential big series of attacks. There's a Sabo going in. Coming down.
Both of these players are playing their heart out.
Yep.
But at the end of the day,
there's block 2.
Nice. That's rough.
7, and there it is. Joe
so,
has no counter in hand. Michael wins.
Michael and Foma able
pretty big. As you guys may have already known, the winner of this ended up going to face Lucci, which is a pretty big winning matchup for Black Yellow Luffy. It would have been also potentially for Blackbeard as well, and ended up winning, and now they're going to Worlds, which is pretty sweet. So this was the biggest matchup here. I do want to say, if you guys are kind of looking at this, I want to give some notes here, both for Black Yellow Luffy and for Marshall D Teach. Things that went right, things that went wrong, game 1, game 2, game 3. Just take these notes down when you're looking to the matchup. And to be very clear, I had zero idea on how to play the matchup before watching this, and now after watching it, I have a slightly better idea. Now, if I can execute that in my games and locals soon, that would be great. But that's kind of the main thing going on. Additionally, I did end up having a really great weekend in Florida. I met a lot of you guys. I appreciate if you did come up to me and say hi. And I was just up the whole weekend. I had a lot of friends. We got an Airbnb, and I ended up pulling a serial Luffy right away at the airport, which there was another funny side story about that. And I'm getting a Silver's Manga Rayleigh, my first manga ever pulled for me finally, right? And then it sold right away. So I was up really big for the trip. Started playing with a lot of Gundam toys, ended up buying a few of those to build. And additionally, I may be interested in looking at the Gundam TCG and kind of teaching you guys how to play that, at least the basics of it, making it really easy for you guys to understand and how to like not lose. Comes soon, because I believe that comes out in July. And I just want to leave it at that. I appreciate you guys all for watching the video. If you guys like this kind of content, please leave a like. If you want to see more like it, send a sub. And I'll see you all in the next one. Ciao.